Welcome to the Startup Support Surgery podcast, where we light the entrepreneurial spark in medics and healthcare professionals. Join me, Dr. Joe Watkins, GP, business coach and co-founder of The How People, on a journey to discover where your medical know-how meets the business world. This will help you find some clarity on how to balance work, passions and family so that you can gain more freedom and control over your life, but also continue to help people, which is actually why most of us went into medicine to start with. Embarking on this entrepreneurial adventure is not easy. It is a roller coaster of emotions, but it's hugely rewarding and exciting in the process. Drawing on my 20 years of blending medicine and business as a GP, I am here to share experiences, insights and lessons. Expect lively chats, expert interviews and real-life stories from medics who have taken their own path. Let's break free from traditional healthcare norms and explore more innovative ways of making a real difference to people's health and well-being, along with paving the way for a brighter future for us as healthcare professionals. Oh, don't miss my free PDF called From Stethoscope to Startup, which is an 11-page guide in the show notes full of practical help and advice. This is your roadmap to kickstarting your journey with us. Enjoy the show. Today I am talking to Dr. Rosie Khan. Rosie is a beautiful human inside and out. She is a private and NHS locum GP and has also worked in the corporate world. Rosie is now an integrative well-being coach for busy professional women. She is a mum of 2 children aged 7 and 4 and a lover of travel and 90s garage music. Rosie, welcome to the show.
Oh, hi. Thank you, Jay. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm delighted to have you here for many, many reasons, which we will get into. But so I've done a little bit of an intro, but you tell us what you do now. And then what we're going to do is throw the time back and we're going to look to a year ago, a little bit further, and we're going to speak to that. So tell us what you're up to at the moment.
So at the moment, I'm a part-time GP, locum. I do that a couple of sessions a week at the moment. And I'm also a wellbeing coach for busy professional women, helping them to put themselves first and to, just help them see what habits and behaviours they need to make in their lives to make them feel better.
Amazing. And how do you do that? Is that in person? Is that online?
It can be in person, but so far it's been on Zoom. And I use a range of different tools to help move my clients forward. So that could be coaching, it could be my knowledge of lifestyle as medicine, it might be a bit of clinical hypnosis, NLP, a whole barrage of tools really.
Fantastic. And these are all things that you've done alongside your medical training over the last few years?
Yeah, it all started about in 2014 when I did a medical diploma in clinical hypnosis. I've always been interested in doing things slightly differently, looking outside of the box. And so since then, I've always sort of educated myself in ways of doing things slightly differently. Yeah.
Amazing. I don't know whether you know this, but I'm quite excited to tell you that you were my first ever newsletter subscriber and my first ever one-to-one purchase as well. So yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. I'll subscribe to anything, me. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, and you've been regretting it every Friday ever since. But yeah, I mean, we met and connected back in May 2023. Now, tell me what was going through your head at the time, where you were at, in terms of, because I think it's really important that people listening to this podcast who are at the beginning of their journey, they may hear what you're doing now and think, well, how on earth do I get to that point where that's what I'm doing with my life? So let's go back a little bit. Where were you in May 2023?
I was sitting right where I am now, watching you on a BSLM conference. talking about how to set up your own business. So in a wider context, I'd been a GP for, at that stage, I don't know, over 15 years. And I'd taken general practice, taken a bit of a backseat, and I'd gone to work in the medtech sector in a corporate role. I was making online digital triage product for primary care. I was doing that for 3 years. And in so many ways, it was brilliant. But it just wasn't very purposeful for me. I just felt like I wasn't on this planet to make a triage product. And so I was thinking about what I could do differently. And I knew I didn't want to come back to full-time general practice. And I'd always had this thing about, I'd done my clinical hypnosis diploma. Could I do something with that? And I'd had this interest in lifestyle of medicine. And I was a member of BSLM, and I went to that webinar where you spoke, and you were really the first doctor that I'd come across who was doing business in a sense. I knew of doctors that had left to go on and do stuff in the medtech sector and whatnot, but I hadn't really met a doctor who'd set up her own business. And I was sold from that point on. I messaged you straight away, and we had a one-to-one.
And that's interesting because at that time you had already, you were involved in other coaching, other business coaching memberships, I think. How important was it, that healthcare piece? Because that's something we've talked about a bit, that understanding, because I think there's so many unique issues that we have as doctors, aren't there?
Yeah, actually, you remind me, I was in another container, like a business strategy container for people who were just setting up their businesses and wanting to do courses and things like that. And that was really good. It was so helpful. But having a medic take me through it who understood the training that I'd been through, the mindset that I would have, we've been on this conveyor belt from the age of about 14 onwards. To have someone with a similar background to me, it just drew me to you. And it was real proof, like, here's a GP doing something that I want to do. If she can do it, then she knows how she can help me do it, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
And I think what we've created between us, really, because if you were here from the beginning, is now a container that's full of people, other doctors that are doing things differently. And I know that every call I come off feeling totally inspired by what somebody else is doing. And it does make a difference, doesn't it? Because I think you have similar experiences.
Yeah, and I just think that community, that group learning is gold as well. And when you have similar experiences and you kind of come to business with the similar values almost, you know that, like, generally speaking, people have the same ethics as you, the same values, the same sort of training as you. It does make a difference. Yeah.
So let's go back to what you were talking about health tech. You were talking about your own sort of GP journey. So you've kind of seen this business world from lots of different angles, I think. Let's talk a little bit about challenges. So, I don't want to, I want to give a really honest account in these podcasts of the good things and the bad things. So what challenges have you had maybe stepping out of the NHS into corporate or now into your own coaching practices?
I think the big thing that I got was the look of horror when I told people I was taking a step back from general practice and I wanted to do something different. It's like a lot of people, especially fellow GPs who weren't of the same mindset, were a bit like, what? Why would you do that? Why break out from the norms? And it took a lot of self-belief to actually say, no, I am actually going to do something different. And I still think some people see me as flaky. Oh, she's did a bit of general practice. She's been a locum, a salary. She's worked in the NHS. She's worked privately. She's worked in the corporate sector. Now she's setting up her own business. To some it might seem flaky, but for me, it's just I'm trying to find where I fit by exploring a lot of different avenues. And I enjoy it. So I think that was a challenge, sort of overcoming other people's sort of judgments of me. And then other challenges of setting up and doing something different. I mean, before I found you, it was pretty difficult because there weren't many people doing similar things. So it's finding a tribe that's going to support you and keep you motivated and help push you through.
Absolutely. And we talked a little bit previously about that learning. We are very good at signing ourselves up for courses, becoming qualified in this and qualified in that, and having every diploma under the sun. We invest all of this time into the scientific learning, but actually once you do decide to go on your own, which isn't for everybody, but if you do decide that you want to do this privately or as part of an NHS bid or independently working for somebody else, then you have to get good at the marketing and the sales, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. How's your learning been? How have you approached things? You're pretty active on social media. How have you managed that side of things?
I mean, it's just been an exponentially steep learning curve. I came to it not knowing anything really, but there is so much information out there, some of it good, some of it not so good. So you have to just take things with a pinch of salt and try different approaches really. Learn as much as you can, speak to as many people as you can, watch YouTube videos, get in a good container or a coaching group that's going to be able to teach you all of this stuff. I think one of the things that surprised me when it comes to entrepreneurship is that it's a very creative process. I feel like in the world of medicine, you do all the time, and you take action and you busy doing things and you get results. Whereas in entrepreneurship, it's sometimes you have to step back to let the creative juices flow. And, content making is creative. Thinking about your lead magnet is creative. Running a coaching session and knowing what questions to ask is creative. It's that everything is a creative process. And if you don't allow time for the inspiration to hit you, then you can sometimes end up doing a lot of action, a lot of the doing without actually moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're all very good at the doing, aren't we? We're all good at the box ticking, let's do this, and let's move on. And what's the answer? What's the thing that's going to get me to the next stage? And there isn't an answer quite often, which we feel really uncomfortable with. And you've touched on something there in terms of the creativity and the content. We had a session this morning where we got into the fact that is a real art, being able to write, being able to make a reader who may need something that you have to offer, may need your help to make them feel something by what they're reading, whether that be on social media or in a newsletter. As I've said before, I'm a massive fan of email marketing, which essentially is instead of focusing just on what we're posting on social media, that we're actually saying to people, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is my shop window. But if you want to come in, step into my world, if you have somebody's email address, you're then able to build a relationship with them. But so many doctors, they say, well, what am I going to write? That complete block as to what you're going to put in that email. That is practice, isn't it? And I see in your social media posts, you getting better and better and better and better. Would you say that a lot of that is just, what about this sort of consistency piece?
Yeah, it is. It's one of the hardest things I find, but probably one of the things that is going to propel you forward is consistent action. Doing things here and there, a little bit here and there, it's not really going to move you forward as much as doing the same thing daily. And it's only with consistency, really, you can start to see what works or what doesn't work. So now that I've got quite a lot of social media posts behind me, I can look and see, okay, how many of those posts were saved? Who DM'd me off the back of that post? And then I can sort of look at what I've written and think, okay, so that's obviously touching a point with some people. I'm going to write more about that, and so on and so forth. It's how you glean information by consistent action. You can get a lot of information from it.
Yeah, and it's about repurposing as well, isn't it? Looking at that information and pulling that out. Do you do that sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. I repurpose my social media content for my newsletter, for blogs. Yeah, it all gets reused.
Yeah, and this is the kind of stuff we talk about, isn't it? Because people say, "Oh my God, what do I do with AI?" But there are really simple processes that start with you coming up with the content, and we go through that. There's a module on that in the course. But you write yourself a block of content, and then you use AI to tweak it, to change it, to help you make it more suitable for LinkedIn or for Instagram, or to expand it, or to splice it up. And these are the sort of things that you only learn when you're surrounded by other people that are doing the same thing, because nobody tells you this stuff in our normal life, do they?
No, absolutely not. I mean, what was it? I didn't even know what AI was not that long ago.
Yeah, but we don't just, it's, and everyone's like, oh, well, you're just using AI to write your stuff. I don't use AI to generate anything. I would only ever use it to splice and help stuff that's coming out of my brain. And we've had an AI session from somebody who is an expert, and she talks about, the real magic is combining human intelligence with artificial intelligence, and it's time saving. It's, it's able to do things that you wouldn't be able to do. It searches hashtags, and it puts things in different languages and takes a sentence and extrapolates it. It's absolutely brilliant. So that's an example of something that we do. And this repurposing your social media and writing newsletters is something that you have really, really lent into.
I think it's.
God,
No, I was going to say, I think it's really important when you're setting up a small business, and if it's, it's a personal brand, people have to know who you are. And that's something that I've really struggled with, because there's this talk about showing your personality, being a little bit vulnerable on social media or in your newsletter or with your clients. But, that's a completely different mindset to where I've been as a GP, which is I have a very professional face. Not like they call me by my name. It's Dr. Khan. It's not Rosie. They don't. I don't give my opinion per se. My patients know nothing about me, and I feel like with the coaching, it's completely opposite. All of a sudden, I have to let people see me, and it can be, uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I guess especially when you're helping people like you maybe go through situations that you've also gone through, and let's talk about that. You're a hugely accomplished, obviously, doctor. The corporate world, hypnosis, lifestyle medicine. You've got all of these interests, and you've been through your own struggles, and it feels to me like you've almost self-taught yourself through this process that you're now helping others. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's 100% how it was. I went through a period of about 8 years. I won't go into it because it's not, we don't have 3 hours, but, there was bereavement, there was marriage, there was babies, there was postnatal depression, IVF journey, a whole lot in 8 years. And I just didn't look after myself during that time. In a way, it's because I didn't know how to look after myself. I didn't know what was out there. I remember after my second child seeing a counsellor because I was feeling pretty low, and we were spending a lot of time talking about my relationship with my mother and my childhood and, all stuff that could be quite useful. But at that time, what I wanted was someone to listen to me, validate how I was feeling, tell me it was okay to feel that way, give me permission to put myself first rather than everybody else, and then say to me, right, let's devise a plan. How are we going to move you forward from this? How are we going to get you feeling to however it is you want to feel? And that's what I was looking for at that time. I didn't know about coaching. This was like 4 years ago. I didn't know this was a thing. So I just taught it to myself, essentially. As like, what can I do that's going to make me feel better? So it's been a real learning process over the last 4 years, really.
And I love that now you hold those things as non-negotiables. So tell me your non-negotiables.
Yeah. So when I started this business, I lost my non-negotiables. I have to say, I got consumed and I let things slide. And I saw the red flags. I was feeling irritable. I was feeling run down. I wasn't sleeping. So I came back, and now I know that if I let any of these things slip, it's not good for me. So my non-negotiables now are daily either meditation or self-hypnosis, minimum of 8 hours sleep. I have to go like all in on my nutrition. I've really had to cut down any alcohol or sugar. I now have to exercise at least 3 or 4 times a week, and some daily movement, whether that just be jumping around the lounge, going out for a walk. So yeah, and I need at least 2 litres of water. Those are not my non-negotiables.
And I love that those come first. Like, I've got a lot to learn from you, Rosie, because and I love the way that you are consistent in that advice to everybody that you talk to. And you will fit your work and your business around those non-negotiables. And you have young children. So that must be a challenge, right?
Yeah, it is a challenge. And I've really had to accept that when it comes to business, my business growth may be slow. But I'm willing to accept that, because I know that without prioritizing myself, my health, my well-being, I have no business. Like, my health and the way I feel underpins everything. So if that goes, then I could do the business for maybe 6 months, a year, but I'll burn myself to the ground. And I remember you very, very resolutely saying to me a year ago, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so I'm choosing to look after myself along the marathon.
Amazing. Tortoise steps. And I think people get frustrated. It's not that, people often feel like they're going to jump into this world where everything comes a little bit more easily. People don't understand the work that it takes to even become established, even become somebody that people recognize and know. There are so many things going on out there. Our worlds are so noisy, our news feeds are so noisy, our emails are so noisy, and it's a process. And you're not the only one. Most of the people that are doing well and are moving forward in this container and community have been in for a year and are still feeling all of those feelings, but they're letting themselves feel those feelings rather than frustration. And this is why I say to people, don't leave the day job, don't just jump ship, because you need to pay the bills, you need to have a roof over your head, you need to not be stressing about the money that's coming in, and you're building something for 5 years, for 10 years. You're looking ahead at what you want your life to look like. And we do a lot of work on that in the beginning, don't we?
I think it's really easy to see people who are out there going, oh, I made 6 figures in my first year of business. And, it's easy to go, oh, that's going to be me. And it's possible. I know people that have done that. It's just very rare. And there's certain sacrifices that have had to be made along the way to get those 6 figures in a year kind of things.
Absolutely. And the whole concept of passive income and courses, and this is possible for people with massive audiences and big names. But actually, if you're just starting out, really the best thing is to just get out there, work one-to-one with clients, work out who you want to help. This is whether you're doing lifestyle menopause, lifestyle coaching, whatever aspect you are in of. And I use those 3 things because those tend to be the people that are coming to me for help and support, tend to be women with children who are wanting a lifestyle business rather than a growth business. They're not looking at health tech businesses to grow and sell in 3 years' time. We're looking at something that complements your life, maybe enables you to be able to drop some of your clinical work, definitely gives you a bit of a spring in your step about your clinical work. I mean, that's what people found. Do you find that you show up in a different way to work?
Yeah, I mean, just because I'm doing a lot less of it, it just feels easier to manage. And also, it's really lovely to be able to incorporate some of those coaching techniques into general practice as well. Or, you can start talking a bit more about lifestyle. And I think the patients really do appreciate that. So, yeah, I've enjoyed that part of it. It's definitely enhanced my capabilities as a GP, I'd say.
Okay, so we're going to come to your advice in a minute, but we've talked a lot about struggles and difficulties, and we've been really honest in this conversation, but what is good about running your own business? What do you enjoy?
I mean, I love coaching. I do. I love coaching. I love using the different tools. I mean, when I started out as a coach, as a wellbeing coach, my aim was to take everything that I wanted to say in a GP appointment, but just didn't have the time. You know what it's like? Someone's come to see you, they're stressed out, and then you've got 10 minutes and you're like, oh, you can have a bit of counselling, or I can start you on an antidepressant. It doesn't really feel very fulfilling. And so I vowed to myself that everything that I wanted to do, I was going to put into my coaching. So obviously I don't prescribe or interpret test results and stuff. But the ability to sit with people and actually deeply listen to them and just see, at the end of the session, how much lighter they feel. I mean, and you haven't had to actually do that much. I know it sounds terrible. I mean, deep listening takes a lot of effort and concentration, and knowing what questions to ask is definitely a skill. But actually, it's a client that does most of the talking, and it's so therapeutic. So I love it. I love getting to know people. I'm nosy about people. I want to listen to what they have to say, and yeah, Yeah, I just love it. That's the great thing about doing the business. And that's something I would say. If you're going to choose a business, don't go into it thinking, well, what's going to make me the most money? What can be the most lucrative? Choose something that lights you up, because you are going to be talking about it and doing it every single day. So I think it's really important to have that sense of love for it.
Absolutely. And the sense of love and connection with the type of people that you're helping. And I mean, what a privilege and an honor to be able to sit and support somebody. And we all know how actually offloading, talking, sharing, and we don't have that time. And we all want to, we're all finding that very frustrating, but we all know how important that is for ourselves, and we all want to do that for our patients. So it's wonderful that you're doing that. And obviously you're really enjoying, and you're good at the marketing side of things as well. Is that over time that's improved? Do you like that bit of it as well?
It's really nice to learn a new skill. I've always been that type. I've always wanted to learn something new. And historically, it's always been around medicine, like my learning. So it's so nice to learn something completely new. And every day I go in with a beginner's mind. It's like, what can I learn today? Like, and it's I don't know, it keeps my brain alive and active. And otherwise I'd just be sitting watching Netflix all day, every day, and doing a bit of work and, just not really stretching myself. And it's not really the life I want.
Absolutely. And you touched on that at the beginning, that whole other people going, what's she doing now? Like, I totally relate to that. But I think if that's part of your makeup and your nature, then absolutely. And that's going to bring out the best in you in every aspect of your life. So fantastic. So we're going to just drill down on a couple of things. So for anyone that's sitting, listening to this podcast, or driving, or taking the dog for a walk, or whatever they're doing, and they're maybe at the beginning of this journey, maybe they're like you were watching that BSLM webinar, and they're thinking, oh, well, what do I do? What do I do first? What do you think somebody needs to hear? And what advice would you give somebody just starting out on their journey?
I would say, if you're just starting out, there's so many bits of advice. It's hard to narrow it down to three. I would say the first thing to do is to really sit and figure out what it is that you want to do. Like I just said, what lights you up? What could you talk about all day, every day? And then go with that. Even if you think, oh, I can't make any money from that, I can't run a business from that. If you do something you love and it's a service to people, it will work if you take consistent action. So I think it's really important. I know a lot of us have fallen out of love with medicine because of the conditions in which we have to work in. So I think it's really important that you choose something that you love to do. The second thing I would say is, it can be overwhelming running a business. There's so many bits to think about. There's so many different spokes to the wheel, so to say. And it's until quite recently, I was getting quite stressed and overwhelmed, just holding a lot in my head. It's like, oh, social media content. Oh, I've got to write an article for that magazine. Oh, I haven't done my newsletter this week. And so I think it's really important to get an organisational system in place early. So now I have a project management board. It's just a free version of Asana, but every day I can open that up at 8:30 and go, right, what is it that I need to do today? And that just means it's actually on paper, on my computer, instead of in my head, so that I feel much less stressed and overwhelmed without having to carry that mental load. And thirdly, I would say it's imperative that you look after yourself on this journey. It might be hard, it might be stressful. You have to prioritize. I mean, for me, it will be different from what it is for other people, but figure out what it is that keeps you sane and happy and healthy, and make those your non-negotiables. Because business is a long game, and you need to make sure that you have the energy in order to go along with it. And also, if you're coaching or doing anything, client facing, then there is an exchange of energy in those meetings that you have with your clients. So you need to make sure that you've got enough energy so that you can pass it on. So those are my 3 points, I think.
Rosie, it's been a total pleasure. I absolutely love them. And you are the queen of non-negotiables. And I think that is the big takeaway. And I love how much you share that within our group as well, because I think it's really important for others to see how well you're doing, but also that you have those in place. So thank you for sharing.
No, you're welcome.
And coming along and giving us advice. How do people contact you? How do people find you?
Oh, yeah. So I have a website, which is www.drrosiekhan.com. I have to think about that. Or I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Dr. Rosie Khan. So feel free to DM me or send me an email via my website. I will always endeavour to reply. If it's not straight away, I will get back to you.
Fantastic. Rosie, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
You're so welcome. Thanks, Jo.
I hope this episode has sparked some new ideas or challenged your thinking. Transitioning from medicine to business is not easy. It's about adapting our skills while embracing the unknowns of entrepreneurship. It can be nerve-wracking, but remember, you are not alone on this journey. Please feel free to reach out to me via direct message on LinkedIn or Instagram, or just shoot me an email at jo@bendylegs.com for support. And don't forget to grab the free PDF from the show notes, From Stethoscope to Startup, which is your go-to guide and resource for diving into entrepreneurship. Many thanks for tuning in. I will see you next time. Thanks for spending your precious time with me.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.